So have you ever wished that you could get more out of your daily 24? You have been wanting to find new strategies to create more time in your day and feel like you have more hours to work with every day, then I have a treat for you. This video is all going to be about my wonderful friend, Angela Mazzi, and the incredible book she put together recently called Time Builder. And I actually just got my own copy of it delivered this past week. And so I thought I would pop in and share with you a little bit about this book. And then after we talk about it a little bit, I actually have an interview that we did back in August as part of my Glow and Shine retreat, where Angela and I talk a little bit more about some of the strategies and the stories that she shares in her book. But I want to tell you first about why I'm so excited about this, because you may have heard a lot of productivity books before. I've read a lot. It's something that I'm really passionate about. So if you want to hear more about that, stay tuned, and I will tell you all about some of my favorite takeaways from her approach and why I think that you'd find it interesting too. So for those of you that are new here, I'm Sarah Francescuti. I am a leadership coach, and I help business owners and leaders and executives across the globe help with their leadership. But first, I find that global impact comes with inner transformation, and we really need to start with our inside perspective first. And one of those things is really how we use our brains and our emotions and our way of interacting with the world to help us be more productive. And that's why I'm so excited about Angela's book. So I just want to talk to you a little bit more about that, and then we'll switch over to the interview from the summer. So Angela is a great friend of mine. I met her through our coaching mentorship group that we were working together with last year. And I was really excited to meet her and be a mastermind buddy with her and get to know her, because she's been extremely accomplished as an architect in the architect industry. She's a thought leader in the industry, and I knew that she would be the type of person that would be not only influential in her career, but also someone that I would love to partner with and get to know sort of as mastermind buddies within our coaching businesses. So that's been really an amazing honor to share her journey and mine with her together. But what I really was excited about was to find out her secrets about how to be productive. And she's specifically talking about in her book about how to be productive in a creative career. But honestly, I think any leader needs creativity to be productive and to really thrive in their work. And the tips that she describes really align with my own perspective on, like I mentioned, thriving from the inside out. So she's not only a partner in her architecture firm, she's a president of one of the architecture boards in her industry. And then she also is quite involved as a mentor in her career, and then also has been running an incredible podcast, and she's been doing incredible networking clubhouse events and a variety of things on top of all of the other stuff that she does within her day job. And so when she asked me to read her book and actually write a foreword for it, I was very honored. So I've actually not only am excited to share Angela's book because of the content, but also because she's been so generous to bring my foreword and introduction into her book. So that's why I'm excited to share it with you. I wouldn't have taken the time to write such a thorough foreword that I did for her. It's 4 pages because I'm just really enthusiastic about how we can change how we lead our organizations and ourselves by managing our time and our energy better. So even by just taking one concept from her book, and it has really been inspirational. So a couple thoughts that really jumped out at me that I thought was really kind of a bit of a wake-up call is one thing that she says in her book is, the real truth is that we're scared to prioritize our life's mission and we let everything else get in the way. And I know it's been easy sometimes for me, and I'm sure for many of you and my clients as well, leaders and friends that I've worked with over the years. It's easy to get into that busy mindset, to feel overwhelmed, to feel like there's not enough time in the day. But really, if you can be clear in what your priorities are and prioritize those first, then that really calms down that noise. Another thing, she was talking about how the value of doing things from joy, not for joy. So instead of chasing something, you're actually starting with joy in the first place. That's a massive mindset shift. And she goes more and more into that. So I don't want to give it all away. And her interview here will tell you more about the book than I will. But I just wanted to just share how honored I am to be in her book. And so if you're interested actually in any sort of Christmas gifts or gifts later on in the future, if this is not around the holiday season when you're watching this, then I highly recommend it. You can get a paper copy like I did, and I'll be gifting these to people in my life this year. Or you can also get her e-copy as well. So I'll show those links below if you're curious to check out more. And Angela, thank you for bringing me into this. When you're watching this, it's been such a joy to get to know you and to support you in your second book. And I look forward to seeing the impact that this will have in your lives, everyone that is reading it. So I think that's all I will really share. I will switch over here now to the recording from the interview that we did, like I said, as part of our Glow and Shine retreat back in August. And I look forward to introducing you to Angela. So enjoy the movie, the video interview, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And I'll see you guys again soon. Have a great day. All right, welcome everybody to the Glow and Shine retreat. And I'm so excited to bring my friend and the amazing career coach, Angela Mazzi, here with us today. So she's going to be sharing with us a little peek into her new book called Time Builder, which I had the honor of reading, and it's awesome. As someone who's passionate and, you know, a little bit geeky into the time management topic, it's always fun to read something new and refreshing. And Angela, as you'll be able to tell from our conversation today, has such a great, real energy and kind of directness about her book. The stories she shares are amazing. And then, you know, the tips that we will be talking about today will give you a little bit of a peek into what she's going to be sharing in her whole book. So Angela is an architect by career, very successful in that, and then also runs her architecting podcast. And as I mentioned, is a wonderful career coach as well. So Angela, thank you for being here today. And I'd love to hear your, I guess we kick off the conversation about what led to you writing your book in the first place.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me be your guest. It's really an honor to talk to you and your audience. And this is such an important topic. I mean, the thing I hear over and over from people is, I'd love to, but I'm too busy. And this can be everything from relaxing and self-care all the way to taking those opportunities that would really catapult you into success. And it can feel really frustrating because when you watch someone do this, it's really a form of self-sabotage. They're holding themselves back because they don't think they have the time to do anything but go to work every day and do life management at home.
And I found that's a common theme, especially with people that are feeling maybe stuck or frustrated with maybe where their life is or their career is, or they're feeling overwhelmed. And I think it comes from a place of disempowerment, honestly, you know, because it is really how you choose to look at things. And I'm sure you can tell us more about that, how it's, you can make the time if it's really important. So I wonder if you can say more about what you see about all of that.
I love that word disempowerment, because a lot of the time, the people who feel that they don't have enough time also kind of view themselves as victims. They're so busy meeting external demands that they're not thinking about how to grow themselves, how to nurture themselves, how to really unleash their potential on the world, because they're too busy meeting expectations. So it is a real problem. And the thing is, it's really comes down to priorities. And I like to say, you make the time for the things you want to do, and you make excuses for everything else. So when you find yourself
very true
making excuses for the things that you say you want to do, that's when you have to really stop and say, what's going on here? Why am I holding myself back? And if it's because you really don't care about hitting a certain career milestone, then don't try to hit it, right? But if it really matters to you to do something, but you find that you're always kicking the can down the road, that's when you need to reassess. And that's really what the book is about. You can read a lot of time management books that are about scheduling or organizing or making lists and different systems. And those are all helpful. Some people will find certain things work better for them than others. But for me, time management is an inside job. And it is really about taking care of yourself so you have optimal energy, having good boundaries so people don't siphon off your bandwidth, and then really being clear on what matters to you and making it a non-negotiable in your life. And people will say, but I can't do that. I have to. And they'll have their whole list. And they'd be surprised to realize that you don't have to quit your job to focus on your priorities. Just giving it a couple hours every day can really start to progress in a really short period of time. And you might say, well, how do I get all this time? Well, it's just kind of rejuggling what you're already doing in a day and saying, do I have to do this? So at our house, we look a lot at, do I always have to be the one that makes dinner when I have a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old? Maybe not. And are they going to make the same kind of dinner I would make? Probably not, but I could do something else with that hour of my time.
Well, and you're also empowering them to learn how to cook, and you get confident in their skills as well. So I really like everything you said, and we could probably dive into each kind of little tidbit for hours. But I really wanted to, I wonder if we can kind of talk a little bit about that switch. So instead of feeling like I'm too busy, I'm overwhelmed, I don't have time, to instead start looking at, well, how can I rebalance what's already on my plate so that there's a little more space? Like you said, one question could be, well, who else could do the dishes or do the dinner cooking? Can you talk us through a little bit more about that so people can start to maybe see how it would fit within their own work and life? Yeah.
So a lot of times, in terms of who else could do it, we hold on to things so tightly, especially at work. Things become very precious to us. And we don't believe that if we delegated it, that someone else would give it that same love. And my challenge back is, no, they probably won't, but they'll love it in a way that you can't. And by loving it that way, they'll advance it in a way you wouldn't have seen or been able to. So we have to let go of this idea that things can only be done our way and empower other people, but also get excited about what they might do with something.
Absolutely. Because that's when their genius can come in, their perspective, or, they can maybe put more time and thought into it than we would.
Exactly. So that is really important, being able to let go and empower others. But it's also important to say, what can I just jettison? Because sometimes things don't have to be done at all. We're saying yes to things that we could have given a polite no to, or we're falling victim to other people's expectations when we could set better boundaries and just take those things off of our plate altogether.
Yes, that resonated to me a lot in your book when you were talking about the whole, what did you call it? Kid engineering or something. I don't remember the term, but that resonated to me as a new mom. Obviously, I haven't quite got our daughter into activities yet, but I'm sure, some new parents would have already by this point. So can you just talk through that example a little bit?
Sure. So I think it is fascinating that if you look at the amount of time that stay-at-home moms in the 60s spent with their kids, that it was far less than the amount of time that working parents spend with their kids today. Why is that?
Okay.
Well, it's because the stay-at-home mom didn't try to be a helicopter parent. She let her kids run around the neighborhood all day. They maybe even walked or rode their bikes to school. They didn't have all kinds of extracurriculars. They came home and they played. So she wasn't having to put a lot of effort. Today, we feel all this pressure because we've kind of idealized childhood. So now we feel like if we don't give our children all of these enrichment opportunities, that we're somehow failing them. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on kids that doesn't always need to be there, but also puts a lot of pressure on us because who has to take them all these places?
Right.
They're not usually down the street and walkable. They require driving. And everything has also turned up a notch in intensity. So I like to tell the story, when I did gymnastics, which was only for the exercise, I went to Terry's School of Dance and I went for an hour once a week. And once a year we had a recital, and that was the end of the time commitment. When I wanted to do the same thing with my daughter, what I found was you had to pay all this money and join this gym, and that it was a multiple day of the week, multiple hour time commitment with tournaments. And I thought, for some kids, that's the right answer. But for most of them, do they even need all of that? Or could they go once a week for an hour? So it really is kind of working with your kids to say, what extracurricular things are really aligned with their interests? Do they really get something out of doing? And then letting go of the rest of it.
Oh, I love that. And that just feels so freeing. When I read it, I thought, yes, that's great, because I do believe very much, in this Exhale and Thrive community, the whole point of it is the exhale part, as well as the recharge part, as well as the doing part. So I think just with our kids as well as ourselves, we need to give ourselves space to breathe. And without that, then all of these desires and goals and dreams just don't have anywhere to be either. And in your book, I know how you showed an example of one of your clients about how you did a little bit of work with her in this area to find a little sliver of time. So I'll just describe it to those that are listening. If you imagine a pie chart, and it was kind of, you had all of your work and your sleep and all of that in there, all divvied up. And Angela, maybe you can take it from here about what you guys did together to find more space.
Sure. So we talked about how her day was split up. And basically she had work obligations about 10 hours a day. That's not atypical. And that included her commute. She had life management, which we all have to do, right? We have to cook and clean and sleep and pay bills. She had family obligations, taking her kids different places, having dinner, going to birthday parties. And then she did have a little quality time in there, about 2 hours a day, but not enough to really nurture her. And what we realized looking at her day was she had 0 hours in the day allocated to advancing what she wanted to really do with her life. So she'd kind of gotten into this rut. And the changes we made were not drastic, but they were some simple mind shifts, right? So first of all, with family obligations, similar to what we were just talking about, she sat down with her kids and she really started to say, of the extracurricular things you're doing, what really matters to you? And she found that her son, who had been on a sports team, which had practice plus games multiple days a week, really wasn't loving it, but he'd really be interested in taking guitar lessons. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
That's a big change. Yeah. He was happier making that shift, but the difference between playing soccer and guitar lessons is guitar lessons are a half hour once a week. Oh. Big shift, right?
Tons of difference. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And there were things her daughter was doing that she kind of was like, I don't know if I really want to keep doing it. Great. Let's not put pressure there. So that helped get her a few more hours. She also started realizing that she could delegate some household chores to her kids or her husband. So that gave her more time as well. And between the two, we were able to open up about 5 hours in her day for more quality time, so better self-care, but also 2 hours a day for what we call my why. And the thing with my why, if you're, a professional whose work is really your vocation, is that it aligns pretty well with what you do at your job. It's just finding the time to do that research project or study that new material or be more involved in a professional organization. So by kind of recalibrating, she was able to not only find the time, but to show her employers how she could, be spending her time a little bit more efficiently. So on her commute, she could listen to a podcast. So she could be learning professional development skills. So that whittled away some of that 10 hours of work obligation and just put it in a different bucket that was more directed and more purposeful. So it wasn't a huge shift. All we really did was find her 3 extra hours in the day.
And that sounds amazing. I mean, 30 minutes is a big deal in this house right now with a 1-year-old. So 3 hours is amazing. And but what I like that what it wasn't like all of a sudden she stopped doing something or stopped sleeping as much, but she actually got rid of the things that weren't needed anyway. And so I actually, it feels like a nice sort of house cleaning, reevaluating where her time and her energy was spent. And I love this. And I think it's something that we could probably all do regularly as a little kind of checkup. And which is why I was hoping you would share with us this approach today, because part of this whole retreat and what I do at this time of year myself is take a step back, kind of reassess and intentionally go into the fall season with this new kind of, maybe it's more spacious schedule. So I'm going to be very excited to go back and kind of journal about this myself and kind of look where I can maybe move my energy and my time around a little differently. So I wonder if there's anything else, Angela, you want to share for people going through that type of exercise, for myself and for everybody else listening to the retreat today.
Yeah, I would say, I'm with you. Fall always seems like the time of new beginnings for me. And it just something about the weather getting cooler is invigorating. But my advice is be ruthless.
I love it.
So much for granted that we think we have to do. And so I would say make a map of your whole day, everything you do. And then for every single task, and get really granular with this, ask yourself why. And really, really, really answer that question. Don't let yourself off the hook with, well, because I have to, or because it's part of this. Really have a meaningful answer to the why. And what you'll notice when you challenge yourself to go deeper and to really understand what's behind is that a lot of things you're doing are habits.
Yeah.
And they may have served you at one time, or they may have been modeled for you growing up, so you just adopted them. But if they're not serving you, let them go.
I love that. And so do you have any other examples of what those things could be? I know for me, I've been doing a little bit more. I actually have a video game on my little iPad I've been playing, which I don't normally do video games. So I think it's been just a little bit of that kind of casual, self-care, but I probably don't need to be doing it as much as I do lately. So that's a little small confession on my side. I think I could probably shrink that bucket of time that activity is, use it maybe every so often instead of a daily thing.
Yes and no, because if you read the book, one of the things that you'll notice is self-care really comes out, because when we are burned out when we are flustered, when we just feel overwhelmed, nothing we do is efficient.
So true. Yeah.
And we're not very creative either. Our creative brain, and I have a whole chapter on how the brain works.
I love that one, by the way.
It was fascinating to learn all this, but we actually shut down mentally in a lot of ways when we are tired and stressed out. And so while it feels like I'm so busy, how could I possibly take time to have a nice leisurely lunch and visit a museum? That actually is probably the best decision you should make. And the reason is you are letting yourself relax. You are exposing yourself to different stimuli, and your brain is going to make different kinds of connections to solve the problem of whatever your work is. So you might have worked an hour and a half less, but you'll come back and be twice as productive and creative, which I think is a layer we often forget about. And even if you don't technically work in a creative field, we all have to use creativity as a skill set every day.
Absolutely. And this is my core message in Exhale and Thrive coaching is yeah, if we don't get the time to breathe and reflect and, like you said, get that perspective and really give ourselves a break, then we're not as effective for sure. And I love how you talked about the 3 brain systems. Can you just maybe quickly touch on that? I don't remember. There was I think an executor and this.
Sure. So yeah, we have basically 3 different networks. So these are different brain regions that work cooperatively. So we have an executive network that is involved with evaluating things. This is sort of like the prefrontal cortex. This is logic. This is ethics. This is all of those kind of what we often call the right brain,
right. Okay.
Then we have what's called the default network, which is responsible for ideation. So this is the one that's out there inventing new possibilities, making uncommon connections. But there's this third network called the salience network that is the switcher. And what I think is really interesting about the salience network is it's also the filter. So have you ever noticed if you are talking with a friend about a new car that you might be interested in, you suddenly see that car on the road everywhere.
Right. Absolutely.
And what's behind that, right? Because we've all had that experience. Well, there aren't suddenly more of that car. You just, by putting your attention to that particular thing, told the salience network to prioritize that. Because all 5 of our senses bring in literally billions of pieces of information every second. We could not even begin to store, let alone process, all of the sensory data that is coming in. And so the salience network is the gatekeeper. It decides what stuff we actually become aware of.
So I love that. That's like the gatekeeper. That's important. Important for it to be working in your favor, really.
Yeah. And so many of us have set our gatekeeper instructions and then just left them there. And so what does our salience network keep bringing in? The same old stuff. So we don't have any new material for that default network to really work with. On the other hand, when you allow yourself to be playful, when you allow yourself to have different experiences, you're setting that gatekeeper instructions on a little different mode, which then gives you more stimuli that are different from the ones you already have had or the memories you have. So it lets you be more creative. And it also lowers the stress response, because in the chapter on the body, I talk a lot about how toxic stress is. And one of the things, just one, that stress does is it shuts down the logical part of our brain, the problem solving part of our brain, because it's really only geared for immediate survival. So we actually, when we relax, we let our brain function improve, which a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, and I've found so many leaders I've found over the years have said they're in that survive mode all the time, day in and day out. And not only is that bad for our bodies and our health, but it also, like you said, just really limits what they're able to do on a day-to-day basis, and can't make as good decisions, aren't going to be as good with their team, and on it goes. So
the very skills you need to help you are the ones that are getting shut down.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think that's a bit of a wake up call for sure. So it's a good reminder for me to hear this again and again, and in your way, and the details that you have are, I wasn't familiar with these networks, and I haven't heard it put that way before. So this has been really great for me to really be able to dive deeper into this topic. And I know I've already read your book once, and I can't wait to read it through again. So I'd love to invite anybody here that wants to find out more about the Time Builder book. Angela, where would they be able to find it?
So they can find it right on my website, which is architectingpodcast.com. It is available right on the front page. There's also a tab where you can see both books, and there's a link there to click to purchase either one. And then, sorry, I think I've also given you a direct link to the sales page, which don't make me say it because it's long.
No, I'll share that. Yes, exactly. So I'll put that below the video as well. So, and I love this conversation and this topic, Angela. I could talk to you for hours, so we'll have to do more future sessions, I'm sure. So I just wonder if there's anything else anybody listening should know, or if they're looking at trying to find some more time in their day, what would you kind of leave them with as lasting, last thoughts today?
Sure. So I think a big thing we often don't think about is that we do have seasons, right? And so to expect that at every moment, every day, day in, day out, we are always going to be optimally creative and productive is not realistic.
Oh, too bad. I wish I could be sometimes, for sure.
But those it really does work much like the four seasons, right? The spring is the ideation, the summer is the doing, the making it happen, the fall is the sort of seeing it play out, and the winter season is about integration. And in our society, we want to be all about spring, summer, fall, and skip the winter, or make the winter wrong. But if we don't allow that integration, we never get the learning, the elevation, the higher leveling that we could. And we just kind of keep cycling down, at one level when we could be spiraling upward.
Oh, wow. That gives me just like shivers just hearing that, because I think that resonates hugely, and especially in high achieving people, right? Kind of want to just jump to the next thing. So how would one give space or allow that integration piece to happen?
Well, I think it comes from knowing that you do need rest. And some days, the very best way you could spend your day is taking a nap and reading I call it junk food kind of book,
right? Yes.
Or binge watching something on TV. That's okay. Now, if you find the warning I'll give about integration is it's easy to get stuck there, right? And to just keep giving yourself a pass. So if you find that this is going on too long, or that you're starting to use it as an excuse not to get things done, then you need to kind of start motivating yourself. But it's okay to do nothing, because sometimes when we do nothing, our subconscious mind is still really, really busy doing a lot of work for us, so that when we're ready to kick into action, we've already planted, that seed that is ready now. Instead, winter is when the seed is sort of, I don't know exactly agricultural terms, but it's
germinating
getting ready.
Yeah.
It's getting ready to grow. And so then it does burst out of the soil. On the other hand, if we never let it germinate, we don't have anything to work with.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And what a beautiful message to bring us back full circle to the beginning of this talk, where you were talking about making space for either doing those things that are important to you or having now that rest time, so you can really get that time to really process or be creative and have all of that pieces come out there. So this has been so wonderful, Angela, and this is just a great summary of your book. There's even more great details in there, more chapters we didn't even touch on today. But if you like this whole concept, then I'd highly encourage you to check out the Time Builder book that Angela has just finished writing. It's your second book, and it's just been amazing. And it's definitely going to be one of my classic go-to time management books that I will revisit again and again, probably as part of my, my seasonal resets that we've been sharing here during this retreat this weekend. So Angela, thank you so much for sharing everything that you have today. And for all of you listening, either live or to the replay here, we'll have all the links in the comments. So thank you for coming, Angela. It's always a pleasure to connect with you and talk about topics like this together.
It's wonderful to be here. I so appreciate the opportunity to share this message with those who need it. So thank you.
I'm sure anyone hearing it can find a lot of value out of what you covered today. You touched on a lot of different themes, a lot of different sort of inspiration ideas. So I know for me, myself, I'm going to be inspired to take forward some of the points we talked about today. So thank you so much. And we'll be bringing Angela back, I'm sure, in the future events and things that we do here in the community. So thanks, everybody. And thanks, Angela. It's been great.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks.